Hi guys, how's it going? It's Amy here, Centre Director of New Me for Christ, bringing you video 1 in this Life Words week we've called Transitions. Today we are looking at the story of 1 Samuel, chapters 1 through chapter 3. We want to focus around 3 characters: the priest of Israel at the time, Eli, a woman called Hannah, and her son Samuel. When the story begins in 1 Samuel chapter 1, we meet Hannah. She's praying regularly in the temple where Eli is the high priest. Hannah's desperate. She longs to have a child, and for whatever reason she hasn't had one yet, but she comes and she prays at the temple. We're told that she prays from her heart, but only her lips move and no sound comes out. Eli, perhaps too quick to judge, assumes that Hannah is drunk and goes to rebuke her. Then he learns that actually she is just being persistent in prayer. She has a desperate desire, which she brings faithfully before the Lord. Lord, if you would open my womb, if I could have a child, then I would dedicate him to serve you. I will give him back to you. We're told that Hannah falls pregnant. Baby Samuel is born, and she's true to her word. She brings the baby boy back to the temple and offers him as someone who will live in a life worth of service to the Lord. Eli takes Samuel into his home, and an interesting story begins. You see, Eli has 2 sons of his own, but they're wicked. They are behaving in ways that displease the Lord. Eli tries to talk to them, but perhaps isn't strong enough. Eli's sons' behaviour lead to the downfall of Eli's family line. For when Eli dies, the Lord is clear that the ruling over people in terms of leading the temple will no longer fall to Eli's sons. Instead, he will raise up a new high priest. Who that will be is already in Eli's household, because Samuel is growing in favour with the Lord. He's dedicated, even as a young boy, to the jobs he is given to do in the temple. In chapter 3, it's a famous story. Samuel is sleeping by the altar. As he sleeps, he hears his name, Samuel. He wakes quickly. He assumes Eli is shouting on him, so Samuel runs through to Eli. What is it? What is it? Eli's confused. He hasn't shouted for him, but he sends Samuel back to sleep by the altar. A second time this happens. Samuel. Again, Samuel wakes. He assumes it's Eli shouting. He rushes through, and Eli again sends him back. He hasn't called upon him, but Eli does say to him, if it happens again, Samuel, it's the Lord that's calling you. You need to ask him to speak to you. Samuel goes back and lies down by the altar. The voice comes again, Samuel. Samuel this time says what Eli has taught him. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And the Lord gives Samuel a word for Eli, a word of judgment, a word which Samuel is reluctant to share with Eli, but Eli encourages him to share it. If God's given you a word, Samuel, you need to share it. And so Samuel passes on this message that Eli's sons will soon be no more, that Eli's time as high priest will come to an end, and that Samuel is ready to be the next high priest of Israel. What might we want to take from this story today? I would encourage you to read the passage for yourself, but what might we learn? There's something that we learn from Hannah about what it means to be persistent in prayer. What are we desperate to see God do in our world? Do we continue to bring it in prayer before the Lord, or do we give up too easily? Do we pray for a bit and then assume it's not going to happen? How can we be like Hannah, persistent in prayer, dedicated to the ways of the Lord, and then grateful when God answers our prayer, to go through with what we promised to do, to sing a song of praise? How can we pray like Hannah? What can we learn from Eli? See, Eli had the warnings that his son's behaviour was discrediting him, was displeasing the Lord, but he wasn't strong enough in his response. He offered a gentle word, yes, but he didn't stop the behaviour. Whose behaviour do we tolerate that stop us from becoming the people God has created us to be? Where is bad characters corrupting our character? What do we need to flee from? What do we need to distance ourselves from? Let's learn from the mistake of Eli in not separating himself or calling out bad behaviour before it's too late. Then what does Samuel teach us in this story? Samuel teaches us about what our response should be when God speaks. The words Eli gave Samuel are so important for us. When we think God is speaking, what should we say? Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. Do you listen for the voice of the Lord? Are you willing to wait for God to speak? Are you too busy rushing on to figure out what you think it's all about? Today, can I encourage you that when God speaks, we need to be people who stop, who listen, who remember that we are but servants, and wait and hear what God says. Would we also be like Samuel, who takes the word to Eli? Who do we trust to take these words to? Will we be brave enough to share, or do we only say what we think people want to hear? God gave Samuel a word, but it was a costly one to share with Eli. How might we be bold like Samuel and trust that when God speaks, it means something for other people too? Guys, check the passage out. Come back tomorrow for the next part of the story. Why not join me and Kwaku on Friday at 4 p.m. on Instagram as we do Life Words Unpacked. Bring your questions. We're going to reflect on more of these themes. Have a great day and see you later in the week. Bye now.